The German Shepherd froze beside the old pickup before anyone else understood why. In the middle of the Veterans Memorial parking lot under a brutal Oklahoma sun, K9 Ranger locked into a textbook explosive alert sit beside the passenger door of a faded blue truck. His spine was straight, ears forward, nose angled under the seat. He did not bark, he did not lunge, he did not move. Officer Cole Bennett felt it instantly, that silent shift only handlers recognize. "Hold," he ordered low and steady. Ranger did not break posture. Families were arriving for the ceremony, folding chairs, flags, children in dress shirts, phones were already lifting. "Is that a bomb, dog?" someone whispered. A hospital administrator rushed over, tight smile hiding panic. "Officer, we cannot shut down this event." Cole ignored her. Ranger only sat like that when he was absolutely certain. Dispatch crackled in his earpiece. The plate came back registered to a medically retired Navy SEAL. The heat pressed down, the crowd edged closer. Then the truck's owner stepped forward and said quietly, "If he's alerting, I know exactly what he's smelling." Cole's pulse kicked. What could stop a bomb, dog? Cold at a veterans memorial. Stay with brave K9 stories. Tell me below, what do you think Ranger found? The assignment had come down the night before. Increased security posture, full vehicle sweep, visible K9 presence. Redstone VA Medical Center in Tulsa was hosting its annual Veterans Memorial Ceremony. Hundreds were expected: retired service members, families, active duty guests, media. Officer Cole Bennett preferred mornings like this when they stayed routine. He stepped out of his unit just after sunrise, heat already building across the asphalt. Ranger exited on command, landing light and controlled at his side. The German Shepherd was 4 years old, deep sable coat, steady eyes, no wasted motion, no nervous energy. "Search," Cole said. Ranger moved immediately into a systematic grid pattern across the first row of parked vehicles. Nose low, tail level, body relaxed but focused. This was not patrol work, this was detection, slow, deliberate, disciplined. Easy. The dog adjusted pace without breaking concentration. Cole scanned the lot while Ranger worked. The parking rows told stories without words: polished SUVs beside faded pickup trucks, handicap plates, Bronze Star license frames, stickers from units long deactivated. Some vehicles were spotless, others carried dents and cracked windshields that spoke of fixed incomes and hard miles. Cole had worked enough details at the VA to understand something most civilians did not. Every vehicle here carried more history than the steel could hold. Check. Ranger shifted angles, weaving between bumpers, testing air currents instead of just ground scent. Cole followed, leash slack but secure, trusting the dog's nose to do what no machine could. They were halfway down the third row when the first shift happened. It was small. Ranger's ears twitched, his breathing changed from rhythmic to measured pulls, his stride shortened. Cole felt the micro-adjustment through the leash before he saw it. The dog angled toward an older blue Ford pickup, paint oxidized, rear window cracked, a faded Navy decal in the corner. The truck looked like it had been owned, not displayed. Ranger approached the passenger side and slowed further. Cole watched the body language carefully. Detection dogs communicate long before they alert. Ranger inhaled once, twice, his head lifted slightly, then his entire frame went still. He stepped tight to the passenger door seam. And sat. Perfect form, rear straight, front legs aligned, eyes locked toward the underseat area. Explosive detection alert. Cole's pulse tightened. He kept his voice even. "Heel." Ranger did not move. Cole took one step back, testing again. "Ranger, heel." The shepherd's ears flicked at the sound of his name, but his posture did not break. His eyes never left the lower edge of the door. Alert confirmed. Cole did not argue with his dog, he never had in 4 years. Ranger did not freelance, he did not guess, he alerted only when he was certain. If Ranger sat, there was something there. The heat seemed heavier now. A VA maintenance worker pushing a trash cart slowed nearby. "Everything okay, officer?" Cole lifted a hand calmly. "Just give us a little space." The man nodded but did not leave far. People rarely did when a police dog stopped like that. 2 families walking toward the event entrance slowed. A phone lifted discreetly. Cole ignored the growing attention. He shifted closer to the passenger window and peered inside. On the dashboard sat a folded American flag, crisp and deliberate, resting against the windshield, not decorative, intentional. Beside it, a pair of desert tan tactical gloves lay worn thin at the knuckles. The interior was clean, no visible wires, no clutter. But Ranger did not care about visible. Cole stepped back and pressed his shoulder mic. Dispatch, Run, Oklahoma, plate 3 Victor Henry 842. Static, then confirmation. As they waited, Ranger remained frozen in his alert sit, muscles engaged but controlled, not anxious, not aggressive, certain. Cole felt the familiar internal split, public calm on the outside, rapid calculation inside. Crowd density increasing, memorial start time approaching. No immediate threat indicators visible, but a trained explosive dog does not imagine scent. Dispatch returned. Plate registered to Mason Hale, local address, retired Navy, no wants, no flags. Retired Navy. Cole's eyes flicked again to the folded flag on the dash. No criminal indicators, no prior incidents. He looked back down at Ranger. The shepherd had not shifted an inch. Cole thought quietly, almost to himself. You never sit for nothing. So why won't you move? The crowd thickened the way it always did when uncertainty entered a public space. Ranger remained locked in his alert sit beside the blue pickup, unmoving under the rising Oklahoma heat. The shepherd's discipline was almost unsettling. No barking, no lunging, just certainty. Hospital operations manager Linda Grayson pushed through the small gathering forming near the vehicle. She wore a navy blazer despite the heat and carried a clipboard like it was a shield. Officer Bennett, she said tightly, lowering her voice but not her urgency. We have press arriving in less than 20 minutes. We cannot have a panic situation. Cole kept his tone steady. Ma'am, my K9 alerted. I have to treat it as legitimate until proven otherwise. A man in a light gray blazer standing nearby muttered loudly enough to be heard, perfect. Terror scare at a veterans memorial, that's just perfect. Two younger men raised their phones higher, recording openly now. Ranger did not acknowledge any of it. Cole noticed that the dog did not break focus for noise, for movement, or for shifting human tension. His nose stayed angled toward the lower seam of the passenger door. That kind of focus meant something. Who owns the truck? Linda asked. I do. The voice came from behind the small crowd. The man who stepped forward moved with controlled awareness. Mid-40s, lean build, posture straight without being stiff, eyes scanning automatically, assessing positions and exits before settling on Cole. I'm Mason Hale, he said calmly. That's my truck. No defensiveness, no sudden gestures. Cole nodded once. Sir, my dog alerted to the passenger side. He's trained in explosive detection. Mason's gaze dropped briefly to Ranger. He studied the dog's posture with a kind of quiet recognition. He's trained on explosives? Mason asked. Yes, sir. Mason gave a slow nod, as if confirming something to himself rather than reacting in surprise. He glanced through the passenger window toward the seat. And in that half-second look, Cole saw it. Recognition. Not confusion, not fear. Understanding. Behind them, someone whispered, That's the guy who parked here early, I saw him. Another voice added louder, Guess the hero brought something back from overseas. A ripple of uneasy laughter followed. Mason did not respond. He did not turn toward the comment. His jaw tightened slightly, but his expression stayed level. Cole noticed the man's hands, steady, no tremor, no agitation, but the knuckles were pale where his fingers pressed lightly against his thigh. Linda stepped closer to Cole. Officer, if this is going to involve bomb squad, I need to know immediately. We cannot have people thinking there is a device in our parking lot. I'm still assessing, Cole replied. Mason looked at Cole again. He's not wrong to alert. That made Linda blink. Excuse me. Cole kept his focus on Mason. Sir, is there anything in the vehicle that would explain explosive residue? Mason did not answer immediately. Instead, he glanced once more at the passenger seat. Through the glass, Cole saw the folded American flag resting on the dashboard. Beside it, the desert tan gloves lay neatly placed, and something else he had missed before. A worn leather leash. No dog in sight. The leash was old, the leather darkened from years of handling, one edge slightly cracked near the clip. Clue planted quietly in Cole's mind. Mason exhaled slowly. I've walked past bomb dogs in airports before, they never reacted. Ranger shifted slightly, not breaking alert, but adjusting posture as if reaffirming the source. Cole trusted that movement. Ranger did not sit on old airport residue, he differentiated. Sir, Cole said carefully, if you can provide context, it may help. Linda interjected sharply, or we escalate this right now, I'm calling campus security. Ma'am, Cole said, voice firmer now, I'm following full protocol. Phones were definitely recording. A small semicircle had formed at a distance, no one close enough to interfere but close enough to witness. Mason looked at the dog again, his voice dropped half a register. Officer, it's not a threat. Linda let out an impatient breath, then explain it. Mason's eyes stayed on Ranger. It might explain your dog, he said quietly. The air between them shifted from public tension to something quieter and heavier. Mason looked at Cole and gave a single nod. You have my consent to search. Cole did not hesitate. Ranger back. The command was calm but firm. The German shepherd rose smoothly from his alert sit and stepped back 2 paces, positioning at Cole's left side. He did not break focus. His eyes stayed on the lower edge of the passenger door, posture tight but controlled. Stay. Ranger held position. Cole reached for the passenger door handle slowly. He did not rush, every movement deliberate. The crowd noise dimmed behind him, replaced by the familiar hum of procedural focus. He opened the door. Heat spilled out from the cab, trapped air carrying the faint scent of sun-warmed upholstery and something else. Ranger's nostrils flared once from his position. Cole crouched and leaned forward, scanning the footwell first. No loose wiring, no visible device, nothing that resembled a constructed threat. Then he angled his light under the seat. There it was. A tightly wrapped bundle tucked deep against the seat rails. Canvas layered and reinforced with gray duct tape, sealed carefully, almost meticulously. Not tossed there. Placed there. Cole felt Mason step closer behind him, not interfering, not crowding, just watching. Mason's breathing changed. It was subtle, but Cole caught it, a slower inhale, a controlled exhale, the kind of breathing someone uses when bracing for impact. Cole reached under the seat and carefully pulled the bundle free. It was heavier than it looked. Solid weight, dense. He held it in both hands and stood. What is this? Cole asked without accusation. Mason's eyes never left the object. A memorials. The word landed strangely in the open air. Behind them, someone whispered, that doesn't look like a memorial. Cole set the bundle gently on the hood of the truck, keeping his body between it and the gathering crowd. He reached to his belt and removed a handheld trace detector. He passed it slowly over the canvas surface. The device gave a soft, intermittent chirp. Not high alarm, not urgent tone. But enough. Explosive residue present. Cole did not react outwardly. Internally, he recalibrated. Sir, he said evenly, this is reading trace contamination. Mason nodded once, it would. That answer drew sharper murmurs from the crowd. See, someone muttered, I told you. Linda stepped back instinctively, creating distance. Cole glanced at Ranger. The shepherd was alert but silent, watching both men and object with disciplined restraint. No growling, no lunging, waiting for direction. Mason, Cole said carefully, dropping formality by instinct, I need you to explain. Mason swallowed once. I served 4 tours, he said quietly. Last deployment was Helmand Province. My unit hit an improvised explosive device during a patrol. His voice did not shake, but something inside it tightened. We lost someone. He did not elaborate further yet. Cole kept his expression neutral, not cold, not sympathetic, just steady. He reached subtly to his chest and adjusted his body camera angle. With one thumb, he activated zoom to capture a clear image of the bundle and the detector reading. Small action, quiet protection. If this escalated, documentation would matter. Behind them, phones were raised higher. "I bet bomb squad's coming," someone said. "Shut the ceremony down," another voice added. Cole ignored the noise. "Mason," he said, "is there anything in this bundle that could detonate?" "No," Mason replied instantly. "There is nothing active, nothing constructed, nothing dangerous." The certainty in his tone carried weight. But residue was residue. And Ranger had not been wrong. Cole looked back at the wrapped canvas. The duct tape had been layered carefully, not rushed, sealed intentionally as if to contain more than just physical contents. He met Mason's eyes one more time. "I'm going to open it." Mason's jaw tightened. "I figured you would." Cole reached for his utility knife. The blade clicked open. And he began cutting through the tape. The first layer of duct tape peeled back with a slow, tearing sound that seemed too loud in the heavy air. Before Cole could cut deeper, Linda stepped aside and dialed her phone. "Yes," she said tightly, turning her back just enough to make it clear this was escalation. "We have a confirmed K9 explosive alert. Owner is former Special Operations. I need campus security here immediately." The words carried. Former Special Operations. That phrase traveled through the crowd like static. Within minutes, a black security SUV rolled toward the lot entrance. Chief of Campus Security Daniel Rhodes stepped out, posture stiff, eyes scanning the scene as if already bracing for liability. "What do we have?" Rhodes asked sharply. "K9 alert," Linda replied. "Explosive residue confirmed. Owner is a retired Navy SEAL." Rhodes' attention snapped to Mason. "That complicates things," he said. Mason's shoulders squared slightly. "How exactly?" Rhodes ignored the question and looked at Cole. "Until bomb squad clears this, the vehicle needs to be secured and impounded." Mason's head turned slowly toward him. "That doesn't leave my sight." The temperature between the men shifted. Cole sensed it before Ranger did. "Ranger downstay." The German Shepherd lowered instantly into a controlled downstay position beside Cole's leg, body aligned, eyes alert, completely still. The bundle rested on the hood of the truck, partially unwrapped, canvas visible beneath layers of cut tape. Rhodes stepped closer. "For everyone's safety, we're taking custody of the item." He reached forward abruptly. Ranger's chest vibrated with a low, controlled rumble. Not a bark, not aggression. A warning. It came only when the security guard moved too quickly toward Mason's side of the vehicle. "Stand down," Cole snapped immediately. Ranger's rumble stopped mid-breath. He did not rise, he did not advance, he simply resumed stillness. The precision of that control silenced part of the crowd. Rhodes took a half-step back. "Control your dog," he muttered. "He is under control," Cole replied evenly. Mason's eyes had not left the bundle. "That's been with me for 10 years, he said quietly. The statement cut through the noise more effectively than shouting would have. Rhodes frowned. 10 years of what exactly? Mason exhaled slowly. 10 years since Helmand, 10 years since I came home without him. The pronoun hung in the air. Linda crossed her arms. "Mr. Hale, if there's residue from an explosive device, you cannot expect us to ignore that." Mason nodded once. "I don't expect you to ignore it." "Then cooperate," Rhodes pressed. "I am cooperating," Mason said, "but that bundle doesn't leave my sight." Rhodes looked at Cole again. "Officer Bennett, we have liability here if that contains battlefield materials." "It contains nothing active," Mason interrupted. Rhodes' gaze sharpened. "And how would you define active, Chief?" The use of Mason's former rank was deliberate, slightly pointed. A subtle implication. "Your background makes this worse." Mason's jaw flexed. Cole saw it happen, that almost imperceptible shift when a man trained to endure pressure begins to withdraw instead of fight. Crowd murmurs grew. "Is he under investigation?" I knew something was off. Phones continued recording. Mason looked toward the ceremony stage in the distance, flags, chairs, families gathering. For a moment, it seemed like he might turn and walk away. "I don't need this," he muttered quietly. Cole stepped slightly between Mason and Rhodes. "Chief Rhodes, we are following procedure," Cole said firmly. "Bomb squad can assess. Until then, the item stays secured and stationary." Rhodes hesitated, public optics were now against him. A visible argument with a veteran in front of cameras would not play well. Fine, Rhodes said tightly, but if that's hazardous material, we're taking it. Cole nodded once. He turned back to the bundle. The final layer of tape remained intact. The sun beat down harder now, sweat traced down the back of Cole's neck. Ranger stayed motionless in downstay, watching everything with disciplined calm. Mason stood silent beside him. Cole positioned the blade again and cut through the final layer. The last strip of tape gave way. Cole folded the canvas back carefully. Inside was not wiring, not circuitry, not a device. It was a scorched metal cylinder about the length of a soup can, edges warped and darkened from intense heat. The surface carried small pitted marks as if it had once absorbed violence and survived it. Beside it, sealed in a clear inner bag, was soil, fine tan dust packed tightly. The crowd fell quieter, confusion replacing tension. Cole ran the handheld detector slowly over the cylinder. The device gave a soft, steady tone. Explosive trace confirmed. But low, old, dormant. Cole studied the readings, not unstable, not reactive, environmental contamination levels consistent with aged battlefield exposure. He looked at Mason. This is what he hit on. Mason nodded once. It would be. Rhodes stepped closer again, voice tightening. Residue is residue, that confirms hazardous material. It confirms history, Mason replied. Rhodes ignored that. If it came from an explosive event, it's contaminated. Cole stayed focused. The readings are low and stable, no volatile response. Mason reached forward but stopped short of touching the cylinder. That casing, he said quietly, was part of the device that detonated. A ripple moved through the bystanders. Linda inhaled sharply. You brought part of an explosive device into a hospital parking lot. Mason's voice remained level. No, I brought what was left of my partner. The word shifted everything. Cole looked at him carefully. Partner. My military working dog, Mason said. He paused as if the next word required force. Titan. The name felt heavy in the open air. Mason's eyes stayed fixed on the cylinder. He was a German shepherd assigned to our team in Helmand Province, smart, fast, always a step ahead of the rest of us. Ranger's ears flicked at the tone in Mason's voice. Mason continued. We were running a route clearance patrol. Titan stopped, same way your dog did, dead still. I was about 10 feet behind him. The parking lot felt smaller. He found the IED before we did, but he didn't have time to clear the blast radius. Silence. The device detonated, took him, saved the rest of us. Cole felt his grip on the detector tighten slightly. The soil in the sealed bag suddenly made sense. This residue, Mason said, is from that blast zone from that day. Rhodes crossed his arms. So you're admitting this came from an improvised explosive device? It came from where he died, Mason corrected quietly. Rhodes seized on it. That still qualifies as contaminated material. For a brief moment, authority felt stronger than grief. Phones were still recording. Linda whispered, this is getting worse. Mason stood motionless. I've carried that for 10 years, he said, under that seat, every Tuesday when I come here for group therapy. His voice dropped slightly. I've never said his name out loud in this parking lot. That admission hit differently than the residue reading ever could. Cole glanced at Ranger. The shepherd had shifted subtly, no longer rigid and alert, no tension in his shoulders now. Cole did not give a command. Ranger rose slowly on his own and stepped forward 2 measured paces. He approached the hood of the truck. And sat. Not in alert posture. Not rigid. Just still. Facing the cylinder. Quiet. The low sun reflected in his eyes as he held position beside the memorial capsule. No growl, no tension. Just presence. The quiet moment did not last. Chief Rhodes stepped away from the hood and keyed his radio. Bomb squad is en route, we are not taking chances. Cole's jaw tightened slightly. He had already assessed the readings. Low, stable, environmental contamination, but once bomb squad was called, the scene would expand beyond his control. The crowd had grown noticeably thicker now. Ceremony attendees lingered at a distance, half curious, half concerned. Phones continued recording. A local news van had just pulled into the far end of the lot. Mason stared at the metal cylinder. For 10 years, he said quietly, almost to himself, it never caused a problem. Cole heard the shift in his tone. The weight of scrutiny. The public doubt. The suggestion that he had done something reckless. Mason's shoulders lowered slightly. If it needs to be surrendered, he said, voice steady but thinner, I'll surrender it. Cole looked at him. That was the near loss. Not of evidence. Of dignity. Hold on, Cole said calmly. He turned to Ranger. Guard. The German shepherd rose smoothly from his sit and positioned himself beside Mason's leg, angled slightly toward the growing semicircle of onlookers. He did not bare teeth, he did not vocalize, he simply created space with presence. Respectful distance. That subtle shift alone pushed two bystanders back half a step. Cole stepped aside and pulled his body camera playback onto his mobile display. He scrolled back to the moment of detection. He replayed the detector reading. The digital display was clear, low trace reading, no spike, no volatile fluctuation. Second clue planted. He held the screen toward Rhodes. Reading is consistent with aged environmental contamination, Cole said evenly, no reactive behavior. Rhodes glanced at it but did not concede. It's still explosive residue. It's old, Cole countered, dormant. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance now. Mason's eyes flicked toward the sound. Linda crossed her arms again, this is becoming a spectacle. Rhodes stepped forward decisively. Until bomb squad determines otherwise, I'm taking custody of the item. He reached toward the cylinder. Front, Cole commanded. Ranger moved instantly. The shepherd stepped forward and positioned himself squarely between Rhodes and the hood of the truck, not lunging, not aggressive, just occupying space with controlled authority. Just out head level. Blocking the path. Rhodes stopped mid-step. Officer, he warned. My dog is under command, Cole replied calmly. No one touches that without proper chain of custody. Ranger did not blink. He did not growl. He simply held position. The discipline in that posture was unmistakable, a trained working dog responding precisely to handler instruction. Mason watched the exchange in silence. For the first time since the alert, something like gratitude flickered across his face. Cole stepped closer to Rhodes, lowering his voice just enough to remove it from the crowd. If bomb squad wants it, they can take it through proper protocol, not through panic. Rhodes hesitated. The sirens were louder now, turning into the lot. Red and blue reflections flashed across the sides of vehicles. Crowd murmurs intensified. Here they come. Told you. Mason looked at the cylinder again, then at Ranger. Easy, Mason said softly, not as a command but as a tone. Ranger remained still. The bomb squad truck rolled into view. And the pressure in the parking lot tightened another degree. The bomb squad truck rolled to a controlled stop near the edge of the parking lot. Two technicians stepped out in protective vests, movements deliberate, scanning the scene before approaching. Red and blue lights reflected off the faded blue pickup and the polished hoods of nearby cars. Chief Rhodes stepped forward before they reached the hood. He raised his voice just enough for the surrounding crowd to hear. For the record, he said, this individual transported material contaminated by an improvised explosive device into a public hospital parking lot during a memorial event. The words landed hard. Several heads turned toward Mason. A phone zoomed closer. That was the line crossed. Mason's posture changed instantly, not aggressive, not defensive. Resolved. He turned slowly to face Rhodes. I did not endanger anyone, he said, voice firm now. I carried what was left of my military working dog. There is a difference. Rhodes did not soften. You admitted it came from a detonation site. Yes, Mason replied, from the site where he saved my team. Silence followed. Ranger remained at perfect heel beside Cole, leash slack, eyes attentive but calm. Cole did not interrupt. Mason reached into the inner pocket of his jacket. Several bystanders stiffened at the motion. Slow, Cole said quietly. Mason nodded and withdrew a sealed folder. Department of Defense casualty documentation, he said evenly. Official release authorization for recovered non-sensitive memorial material, signed and processed 10 years ago. He handed the folder to Cole. Cole opened it carefully. Inside were formal documents stamped and dated. Verification of a military working dog casualty. Release authorization for non-classified debris recovered from the blast site. Chain of custody paperwork completed overseas. The name was clear on the page. Titan. Cole felt the weight of it. He keyed his shoulder mic. Dispatch, I need verification on Department of Defense document number Alpha 47. He read off the reference code precisely. Static crackled. The bomb squad technicians approached the hood but held position, waiting for instruction. The crowd was quieter now. The earlier whispers had shifted into something more uncertain. Rhodes folded his arms, watching. Mason stood still, chin level, eyes forward. No apology in his posture. Just truth. Dispatch returned. Officer Bennett, document number confirms due release authorization of memorial debris related to military working dog casualty, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. No restrictions listed. Cole let out a slow breath. He turned the folder toward Rhodes. It's verified. Rhodes' jaw tightened, but he did not argue further. The lead bomb technician, Sergeant Carla Nguyen, stepped forward, professional, controlled. Officer, she said to Cole, walk me through the detector reading. Cole showed her the handheld unit and replayed the earlier scan on his body camera display. Low trace stable, no active components visible. Nguyen nodded once. She lifted her own detection tool and passed it slowly over the cylinder. A faint tone sounded. Consistent with Cole's reading. She crouched slightly, studying the scorched metal surface. The entire parking lot seemed to hold its breath. Ranger stood motionless at heel. Mason did not move. The technician straightened and looked at Cole. Sergeant Carla Nguyen did not rush her assessment. She passed her detection wand over the scorched cylinder again, then over the sealed soil pouch. Her posture remained calm, professional, controlled. Finally, she straightened and faced Chief Rhodes first. This is inert battlefield contamination, she said clearly. There is no active explosive device, no detonator, no reactive compound. The residue present is consistent with aged exposure from an explosive environment. It poses no threat in its current state. The words traveled across the lot. No threat. A visible shift moved through the crowd, shoulders loosened, phones lowered slightly, conversations quieted. Cole stepped forward and held up his body camera display for Nguyen and Rhodes. Initial detector reading was low and stable, he said. No spike, no volatility recorded at time of alert. Nguyen nodded once. That matches our assessment. Rhodes' jaw flexed. The certainty he had displayed earlier softened under the weight of public verification. Linda Grayson cleared her throat. So, the event can proceed. Nguyen answered calmly, yes. Cole turned back to Mason and handed him the Department of Defense folder. The documentation checks out, he said. Military working dog casualty, Helmand Province, release authorization confirmed. Mason accepted the folder slowly. For the first time since the alert, his shoulders lowered fully. Rhodes looked at Mason, then at the gathering onlookers. For clarity, he said, projecting his voice, there is no active hazard. The item in question is a verified memorial object. No criminal activity occurred. It was not quite an apology, but it was a retraction. That mattered. Cole met Mason's eyes briefly. Procedure continued as it should. Nguyen logged the item description and detector results. Cole documented the K9 alert, residue confirmation, and resolution in his report. Rhodes made a note for campus records. No confiscation, no impound. No arrest. Public scrutiny dissolved into respectful distance. Nguyen crouched beside Ranger before stepping away. She extended one hand slowly. Permission to approach, she asked Cole. Go ahead, Cole replied. Ranger remained still as Nguyen touched his shoulder lightly. Good dog, she said quietly. Ranger's tail gave a single, restrained sweep against the pavement. Professional acknowledgement. Nothing more. The ceremony staff resumed preparations. Folding chairs were realigned. The color guard assembled near the stage. Mason stood motionless for a moment longer beside the hood of his truck. Then he did something different. He reached forward and picked up the metal cylinder carefully with both hands. Not hurried. Not hidden. He removed the soil pouch as well and rewrapped them gently in the canvas, but this time he did not secure it tightly with tape. He folded the material loosely around it. He turned to Cole. "Thank you," he said. Cole nodded once. He did his job. Mason glanced at Ranger. "So did yours." A few minutes later, the memorial ceremony began. Rows of veterans stood at attention, families bowed heads, the Oklahoma flag stirred faintly in the warm air. Mason did not return the capsule under the truck seat. He walked toward the front row. He sat down and placed the wrapped memorial openly on his lap. When the guest speaker began reading names of the fallen, Mason listened without flinching. Then came a moment not originally scheduled. The master of ceremonies stepped forward again. "Today," she said, "we also honor military working dogs who served alongside our troops." A murmur moved through the crowd. Mason inhaled slowly. The color guard shifted formation. One member stepped forward and read a short acknowledgement of K-9 teams who detected threats, cleared paths, and gave their lives in service. As the final line was spoken, Mason lowered his head slightly. And for the first time in 10 years, he said it out loud where others could hear. Titan. The name did not break him. It steadied him. Cole stood at the edge of the ceremony perimeter, Ranger at perfect heel. When the bugle call began, Ranger remained motionless, posture disciplined, gaze forward. As the salute concluded, Mason lifted his chin. There were no whispers now. No mockery. Only quiet recognition. The capsule rested openly in his hands. Not hidden. Not questioned. Honored, the parking lot returned to its intended purpose by late afternoon. Flags were folded, chairs stacked, families dispersed slowly into the warm Oklahoma evening. Mason did not rush away. He stood near his truck for a long moment after the ceremony ended, the loosely wrapped memorial capsule resting in his hands. The earlier tension had drained from his posture. In its place was something steadier. Cole approached with Ranger at heel. "Everything settled?" Cole asked. Mason nodded, for the first time in a while. They stood in companionable silence for a few seconds. "I attend group here every Tuesday," Mason said. "I've been going for 3 years. I sit in the circle, I listen, but I never say his name." Cole understood without explanation. "Titan," Mason added quietly. This time the name did not feel fragile. Later that week, Mason returned to the VA therapy room, metal folding chairs, fluorescent lighting, a circle of veterans who carried their own invisible weight. When it was his turn to speak, he did not look at the floor. "My partner was a German shepherd named Titan," he said clearly. "He found the device before we did." The room did not judge, it did not question. It understood. Back in the parking lot after the ceremony, Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. "There's a retired K-9 handler in our department," he said. "Sergeant Louis Morneau lost his partner a few years ago. He runs a support group for handlers who have been through it." Mason accepted the card. "Thank you." Ranger shifted slightly beside Cole. Mason looked down at the dog. "May I?" he asked. Cole nodded. "Easy," he commanded softly. Ranger stepped forward under control and lowered his head gently against Mason's knee. No dramatic movement, no theatrics, just steady contact. Mason rested one hand on the shepherd's neck. "Good boy," he said quietly. Ranger's tail gave one calm sweep. Across the lot, Chief Rhodes exited the hospital entrance. His earlier certainty was gone. Later reports would note that his public handling of the situation had been reviewed internally, policy reminders issued, approach adjusted. No one mentioned punishment. But accountability had happened. As the sun dipped lower, Mason placed the memorial capsule back inside his truck. Not under the seat this time. On the passenger seat. Visible. Honored. Cole watched him drive away, then gave Ranger a final command. "Heel." They walked back toward the patrol unit together, step for step. The day had begun with suspicion. It ended with respect. Because grief becomes heavier when buried and lighter when shared with those who understand. Folded American flag on dashboard signals memorial significance, paid off when Mason places capsule openly during ceremony. Desert tan gloves and worn leash hint at military working dog connection, paid off with Titan's identity reveal. Ranger's unwavering alert sit proves residue presence is real, validated by bomb technician's confirmation. Mason's calm reaction to alert suggests prior knowledge, paid off when he explains blast site origin. Low and stable trace detector reading, planted early, used to counter overreaction and prevent confiscation. Body camera zoom on detector reading preserves objective evidence, protects Mason during public accusation. Security chief's overreach builds injustice tension, resolved when documentation and bomb tech confirm no threat. Ranger shifting from rigid alert posture to quiet sit beside capsule, a emotional transition from suspicion to honor. Public recording phones create accountability pressure, contribute to visible retraction and respect moment. Documentation reference number verified through dispatch, procedural realism payoff. Bully insults. Some hero you are. Maybe he brought a souvenir home. Victim lines. It's not what you think. He saved my life. Calm warnings. Please step back. Let me handle my dog. Dog commands. Ranger heel. Down stay. Additional dog commands. Back. Front. Authority reveal line. This residue is inert and poses no threat. Quiet respect line. He found it before we did. Support offer line. You don't have to carry it alone. We honor them best by speaking their names.